The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, February 23rd. Hi, Mark. Anyway, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Scott.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Let me just do my regular preamble and remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded. Any comments or questions that are received online become part of the public record. And if you have a question or a comment, please use the question box on screen, as that is easier for us to see you and recognize you, as opposed to raising the icon and raising your hand, which sometimes we miss. So with that, we go to our 702 item, which is open forum and recognition. And tonight we are going to recognize Hal Schreiber and thank Hal for now 20 years of service to our seniors in helping them through the AARP tax preparation program. Hal has devoted countless hours to helping our seniors with their taxes every year for the last 20 years. I don't know how many residents Hal has helped, but I do know it's innumerable, and I do know that all of them are completely and totally grateful to Hal for his assistance in preparing and filing their taxes, as they could not do it without him. Hal certainly embodies somebody who has given back so much to this town over the years. Some of us remember that back in the 90s, Hal served on the select board, and he was also at one time our representative to the coalition, and I unfortunately cannot remember its exact name, and I couldn't find it when I was looking for it this afternoon, but he was the town's representative to the regional's solid waste program, and when we were sending our solid waste to, I believe, either North Andover or Lawrence. But on behalf of the board and on behalf of all the seniors who you have helped, Hal, thank you very much for your commitment and for your dedication and for always giving back to the town. So thank you, Hal. All right. Anybody from the board have anything for open forum? Okay, seeing none, and I don't see anything from the audience. So we will move to our 7:05 p.m. item, which is an presentation of the financials or the draft financials by Westford Cat. And I think it looks like Christy Bates is going to be doing the presentation. So Eric and Christy, if you can unmute yourselves.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Christy.
Yep, we can.
Sarah Fletcher and Jack Wang will also be joining me.
Okay.
I'm just going to unmute them. Eric could unmute them too. Thank you. So I just want to, I'm Christy Bates. I'm the president of the Westford Community Access Television Board. And thank you for having us on the agenda tonight. In the memorandum of understanding that Westford Cat has with the town, it's stated that we have to provide you with the draft financials. Oh, sorry, I'm not on camera. With the draft financials by the end of February, and you'll find that in your packet. And we just wanted to take this opportunity to review those financials with you, as well as highlights over this very exciting year at Westford Cat. And Sarah Fletcher, the Executive Director of Westford Cat, is here to review those highlights. And then when she's done, Jack Wang, the Board Treasurer, is going to go through the financials. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah. And thank you.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me okay? Good. All right. So just to kind of recap 2020 and give you a little bit of an idea of where we're headed in 2021. First off, I just want to thank Christy and say that I'm really very pleased to be here as the confirmed Executive Director of Westford Cat, and very proud of everything we've been able to accomplish despite the many challenges of 2020. I'm very grateful to the board and to our committee volunteers for their ongoing support and guidance, but none of it would happen without extraordinary efforts on behalf of the Westford Cat staff. Joyce, Nick, Patty, and Steve have continued working in a hybrid format since last March. They have, they're literally an award-winning staff. They've placed in the Mass Access Regional Awards called the Nor'easters for 2 productions last year, for a Main Street Westford, and for the coverage of the Stormwater Matters in Westford. Patty and Joyce were also nominated for statewide Mass Creators Awards for the news show, and Patty for Best Host. So these are all very competitive awards programs, and the staff is really well deserving of the recognition that they received last year. And we're very proud of them. Each month, Joyce adds 50 to 60 pieces of content to the Westford Cat news site. She writes a weekly news show and covers emerging stories around town. Patty, along with editing the shows, adds many additional video productions and has made Jeff Stevens a star with the weekly COVID updates. She continues to work with the Lowell Humane Society and has been interviewing PCA artists for virtual gallery exhibits, and she covers special events around town as well. Steve got us up and running live from Alumni Field for town meetings and for graduation, which paved the way for WA sports coverage this past fall. And that's going to be starting up again in March, so we'll be back on the field with some student crews. Nick has been instrumental in getting special programming aired for organizations around town, including Cameron Senior Center, Veterans Affairs, Westford Historical Society, and several others. We have continued to host high school and college students in remote and hybrid formats, and have hired students for summer and school year help. This past year, we've worked with students from Innovation Academy Charter School, St. Mark's School in Southborough, Westford Academy, Endicott College, and UNH. And coming up this year, we're very excited to announce that we'll be creating a sound studio for voiceovers, audition demos, and of course, podcasting. And we're very close to accepting quotes to get work started and equipment ordered for the podcast studio. So this will be a nice addition for the community. Other activities include a complete inventory assessment, a major cleanup and recycling of old equipment, merging our 2 separate websites into one that should be rolled out in the beginning of March. Another very exciting development. And with the help of a really great fundraising task force, we'll be holding membership drives and raising money through grant writing and virtual events. So while the declining franchise fees is a real challenge, we've been able to offset the loss with fundraising activities. And with the PPP loan forgiveness, we ended 2020 on a really good note. And finally, just to kind of wrap up the very brief overview, we have begun gathering information from stakeholders for a strategic analysis and plan development. So as you'll see in a moment, that our finances are in good shape under Jack's watchful eyes. So if you don't have any questions for me, I'll turn it over to Jack.
All right,
Okay,
thank you so much.
Go ahead, Jack. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was actually about to say, just pause a moment for questions for Sarah.
I'm not seeing any, so why don't you go ahead, Jack?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Christy. And thank you, Select Board, for having us this evening. My name is Jack Wang. I am the treasurer of Westford Cat. Just wanted to take just a brief moment just to update everyone on our financial situation. As Sarah said, I mean, we had, despite the some transition in staff, we had a pretty good year. So you can see on the chart, the lighter blue bars are revenue from the franchise fees that we receive from Comcast and Verizon. I'll come back to that in just a moment. The darker blue bar, as a nonprofit, we run pretty close to the vest. But as a result of our PPP loan forgiveness, we ended up finishing the year positive, I think like 60,000 or close to 60,000 on an income basis, and also positive about 80,000 on a cash flow basis. And that's the measure that we really look at as a nonprofit. The PPP loan was really taken, as my understanding, was really taken out of an opportunity and abundance of caution by the last board. We were fortunate enough to have the entire thing forgiven. And quite frankly, we had met all the requirements under the revised law anyway, in terms of the percentage that we had to pay towards payroll and other expenses. So we were confident that was going to be forgiven, and that did indeed occur. Just to give you an idea, if you can advance to the next slide, please, for a moment. Our overall financial position, so as Sarah said, to offset some of our gradually decreasing subscriber revenue, the board, and along with the fantastic task force, along with great efforts by Sarah, has undertaken increased fundraising and grant writing. Not something that Westford Cat has really done a lot of in the past, and it is a skill that we do need to continue to develop. But the early indications are that we're getting really good results, so we're really happy with that. Also, the third bullet point at the top there, we have cash and investment equivalents of roughly $557,000 at the end of December. So that roughly equates to having 1 year's worth of emergency funds, if you think about your own household budget. It's pretty good, right? Now, having said that, we are very conservative and we are very mindful, and plans are in place to really put some of that money to work safely, okay? Because we do have long-term challenges, as Sarah mentioned. The ongoing subscriber fees have been gradually trending downwards, and of course our costs, all things being equal, only go one way, and that unfortunately is up. So as we get better in the fundraising, grant writing, and just even more efficient with our financial management, that's how we're hoping to address these challenges. But despite past challenges, all is well, right? And we are cautiously optimistic for the future. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Thank you, Jack and Sarah and Christy. Hang on, I'll get you in 1 minute, Mark. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you, to your board, to everybody who has worked so hard this past year at Westford Cat. You guys have been absolutely instrumental and integral into keeping the community informed, in showing all of our meetings, being there, and we are just so grateful for all of the hard work and all of the time and effort that all of you have put in. So I would like to thank all of you for doing that. I would also like to say this is how pleased I am and happy to hear this report, because I think about where we were a year ago, and some of the concerns that were being raised then, and not only financially, but administratively and programmatically, and to see how far you have all come in a year is just incredibly gratifying, and not only for us, but I am sure even more so for you folks. So really kudos to all of you for just a great year and a great achievement. So I wanted to say that. With that, I know, Mark, you had your hand up, and go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so well said, Andrea, and I do applaud all of you. This is a much nicer conversation to have than the ones we were having a year ago. So thanks very much. I do have a few questions. Wouldn't be a financial discussion without me having at least a few questions. So the 112,000 in receivables, is that from Comcast?
Yeah, it's the worst named item on our balance sheet. Even I was a little confused by it until we got clarification from our auditors. That simply represents a timing issue. So at the end of December, right? So subscriber fees are paid quarterly. And so it's simply a timing issue between what was due at the end of December, but not yet paid. So if you have any accounting background, accounts receivable is normally like if you're a manufacturer, you sell something, you bill for it, right? We don't do that. So it really should not be named that, but that's simply subscriber revenue that's owed by both Comcast and Verizon. It's an aggregate number.
Okay, very good. That's what I thought. Secondly, Jack, you referenced what your cash flow was for the year. Did you say it was a positive 60?
Yeah, it's about a positive 80. So what we do is we add back. Obviously, we don't look at the one-time items. The loan forgiveness flow through on the income statement as income, but as a practical matter, it's really not. We also add back items such as depreciation and the unrealized gains and losses on investments. As a nonprofit, we don't benefit from things like tax loss carryforwards. So while we might run a small surplus or small deficit each year, the true measuring stick of our financial health is our cash flow. Like, what are we actually generating from operations, netting out these one-time items?
Right. And but it's safe to say that the loan forgiveness is what generated the positive cash flow, and without that, you would have been pretty close to a cash break even, which is exactly where you would want to be, of course.
Actually, no. Well, that's after netting out the forgiveness. So we ended up, if you look at our cash flow number, adding back depreciation on the surplus, we would have had something like 150,000 in positive cash flow, but 73,000 that was from PPP loan forgiveness. Now, please don't get me wrong. I'm happy we got forgiveness. I would, I'm good with not paying it back. Okay. And it's extra money in our pocket, which we'll take any day of the week. But from an accounting standpoint, obviously we have to exclude that because it really is, it wasn't because we, had some incredible video production deal or something. Although we're waiting for that from Sarah for next year.
Yeah, so your operating cash flow was a positive 70 or 80. Your total cash flow, if you had taken in the cash for the loan forgiveness, would have been 150. Okay. And then my last question is really related to rent. So I guess I didn't look at this last year. I was a little surprised at the cost of rent for the place that you're in. Have they held your lease rates fairly flat?
Quote unquote fairly, right? So the rent figure is really a legacy figure from prior years. There was some discussion about the owner selling, and we have since renegotiated the lease to extend out, but there is a 3% escalator per year. So, on one hand, it's not growing like crazy. On the other hand, it's not flat. So it's a nice compromise, I guess, in exchange for the alternative. I mean, we had to take a look at, if we didn't renew, what were we going to do instead? And there just weren't really a lot of attractive options at the moment.
Okay.
I think that
Anybody
answer
else?
froze Mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Mark is frozen right now. Um, um, Scott, go ahead.
So I just want to add my, thanks to those of Andrea and Mark that I'm reminded of the theme song from Smoking the Bandit. We're gonna do what they say can't be done. So congratulations on doing that. It's a much different feel today than it was a year ago. So thank you. I'm sure the whole town thanks you for what you're doing, what you have done, and what you are sure will keep on doing for us. So thanks.
Thank you so much. A little eastbound and out, and then I guess we're out, right?
I think so. I don't think there are any other comments and there are no questions. So thank you all. And keep on doing what you're doing. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. We're now at our 7:15 item, which is an update from the Recycling Commission on analysis of pay-as-you-throw program for solid waste and recycling, and a discussion regarding current household trash limits. And I believe Corey Groves from the Recycling Commission looks like is going to be presenting, and it looks like that there are several other people from the Recycling Commission who are also present. So Eric, is Corey out there?
Yeah, her mic's on. Corey, are you there? Not hearing her.
I'm not hearing her either.
I'm going to unmute the other members of the Recycling Commission.
Okay, and Mark just sent me a message. He got kicked out and he's trying to get back in.
We're not having a good tech night.
Yeah. Corey, no, you just sent me a question. Can folks hear me? And the answer is no, we cannot hear you.
You want me to try to call her cell phone and see if I can get her through there?
Yeah, although that's really hard for us and the audience to hear. Hang on a minute. Apologies. Let me try to again. I think she's trying to log in again. Well, if that's not working, she can't log in, Eric, then I guess, yeah, the alternative is for you to see if you can, if we can do it by calling her.
All right, I'm just looking up her phone number now. Give me just a moment.
Meanwhile, Scott and Anita, why don't we do the consent agenda, okay? So on our consent agenda is a request to use the town common for Easter morning church service. John Rawls on behalf of Cornerstone Congregational Church. The date is Sunday, April 4th, and the time is from 9 to 12:30 p.m. So is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Okay,
I have Corey here now, Andrea.
okay.
Can everybody hear me?
Hi, Cor. Yes,
Great.
yes, we can. So go ahead.
No, super. Thank you. Thanks for the time this evening. And hopefully there's not too much feedback on my line. So the commission has submitted our report of the current status of our pay-as-you-throw work, and it represents the totality of information that we've compiled to date. You'll see an extensive set of information, which includes, how we define the problem and some of our initial observations, and then some additional information on approaches, potential approaches to this project. From our perspective, we view our role in this project as a resource to the town and to the select board to assist in gathering the data, researching the applicability, and then ultimately educating the town and the leadership when considering updates to our trash and recycling cost models, changes to policies, and impacts on contracting and usage. You may ask when you read the report that we submitted why we did not form a consensus around any of the options we outlined. And to that, I would answer that, our role as a volunteer board, we're not in a position necessarily to recommend decisions or oversee the execution and enforcement of those decisions. Our goal is really to present the information that we found and then seek answers and direction from the town and from the select board on potential areas of focus.
Okay. So I will say, in case I know one of your questions was whether the board had read the report from the Recycling Commission, and I can assure you that the board has read your report from the commission, and certainly appreciates all of the work that you folks have done so far and have gone into the report itself. I know that it looks like from the report you have requested another 6 months before making final recommendations to the select board about what pay as you throw over a long-term implementation or non-implementation over the long term. And you also raised the issue and the question about whether the board was looking not only at pay as you throw in connection with budget discussions, but whether we look at other committees, commissions, and ways that we may either save money, how we manage our budget, and how we address priorities. And I would like to assure you that the Recycling Commission has not been singled out, and that as part of the Select Board's obligations and responsibilities during every budget season, which we have now started upon, we look at every possible place where either revenue is generated or expenses are incurred as we prepare our budget going forward. You will see over the next, starting March 4th, 6 to 8 weeks, that we literally go through the budget line by line with every department here in town as we, finalize the budget that's brought forward to town meeting for either its approval or disapproval. So this is simply, and our request to you was, again, within the context of the overall budget review that the board believes that we are trusted with and that we are tasked with doing in connection with our budget review for the town. So I did want to respond to at least those two questions that you raised within your report. And then there are certainly other questions that you raised, I think, that are all very valid questions that need to be looked at and need to be discussed publicly. But I think that some of those questions are for a later date and for when more information is available. So with that, before I continue to go on, do other board members have questions and comments? Because I certainly have some questions, but I'll open it up to other board members first before I go on. Okay, Scott?
So, first, I guess I read the report. In fact, thank you. That was a very, very, very good report. That was excellent. A lot of information, a lot of, facts, comparative stats, questions to the state. A lot of good stuff in there that I think is helpful. But you're right. We're not there yet. I can appreciate how much work I didn't expect some of the issues that were in there to be in there. So, great job. I guess the one question I had was trying to understand, how much trash really can be taken out of the stream. So you mentioned, or the report mentions, we could recycle mattresses. Well, we pay a fee for that now. White goods, we pay a fee for now. Certainly the food waste that could be composted, that is something we could do a better job with. It was amazing to get almost 2 tons out of that stream in about 10 weeks. So amazing work there, and it does speak to the fact we could get even more on a real focused effort. But I guess, is there any kind of data on just general trash in the state? Enough for you need to answer tonight. You probably don't know the answer tonight. But as you think about how to control cost, how much can really be removed, how much will always be there, if we knew what kind of trash we were getting by type, and I'm sure the state must know that from past studies. It might be some good guidance to know just how low we can go with tonnage.
Scott, it's a great question, and although there were some slides that Mass DEP provided that give a general average of the breakdown or the attribution of the waste, which percentage might be food waste, which percentage might be fabric and textiles. It is out there. They did provide that to us. We can share that along with the town by town results, the trash results that they've collected. So that is available. And I think that, to answer the first part of your question and how we started out, that's really where we got stuck is how much can you reduce if you don't necessarily have all of those supporting components And so that's, I think, where we'd like to look in the next 6 months, where we'd like to explore those questions a little bit deeper.
And to Andrew's point, part of it's on us. I mean, if we really want to have a townwide composting program, that's on the select board to make it happen. And you mentioned staffing in other towns that would oversee this kind of exercise, which we don't have here. So again, it's up to us as part of the budget process. So I think you asked good questions of us, and I agree with Andrea. Not tonight's topic, but really good things to think about. Thanks.
Mark?
Thank you, Scott. And we'll revert to you with that general picture of the composition of the trash barrel.
Okay, Mark?
Yeah, so thank you very much, and sorry that I don't know what happened with my connection, but so I'm starting to think about trash and recycling and the escalation of costs like health insurance. Not that they are the same, but the escalation of costs it's mind-boggling to me what they were 10 years ago versus what they are now. And I'm struggling a little bit about why we think this is going to take 6 months. So I'd be interested in your input as to why this is a 6-month effort to try to come back with a series of options. And I'm not suggesting necessarily the pay-as-you-throw is the end-all to be-all. I was chair of the finance committee when we tried this once before. But times have changed a lot, as has the economics of the town. So can someone just explain to me why this is a 6-month effort?
Mark, I would say that as we put this report together, there are a number of options that we identified, and so I think to fully analyze each of those options, we've requested a 6-month time period.
Okay, no, I understand that that's what you've requested. Seems like a very long time given the work that's already gone in a budget process that we have a few months for. So
this is Elizabeth Sawyer. I'll pipe up with another answer of that. Speaking for myself, I'm part of the pay-as-you-throw subcommittee, but I'm also running the town's hazardous waste event that's expecting unprecedented turnout in May. And we have had to research and institute a pre-registration program that we could not reuse from anything from the town. So we are continuing our steady state responsibilities as this commission, which acts as some of the arms and legs that for most towns in the Commonwealth fall under a DEP department, that we don't have structured like that. So my availability for working on pay-as-you-throw is on top of everything I already do for the town of Westford in this capacity. And I personally have only certain hours I can give towards that alongside what I already give. So I'm not speaking on behalf of the entire commission, but there is also an element to this that we're volunteers and we have, a capacity to what we can add on top of what we each are responsible for every month already for the town.
Okay, I appreciate that. So Andrea, my last question really is, during the budget process, and maybe Jody, this is with Dan as well, and Eric, when we get to the budget side of trash and recycling, I'd like to have some more dialogue about options during that time. Just a thought session for it. Dan's got a lot of history with this, as does Eric. I know all three of you have worked really hard in contract negotiations and things of that matter. So I just think this needs some more strategizing, if you will.
Jody and Anita, I haven't forgotten that you had some questions.
Oh, Anita, do you want to go first?
So I guess, I also think that I've given some feedback through Christina Green on this issue. And I guess I think that smaller changes might not be as complex as what the committee is looking at. And I think we do hear from Acme that some people throw away their debris when they renovate their homes in their containers. And if we just limited how many containers people could put out, right now it's 3, used to be unlimited, I believe. Even if we went down to 1, didn't make people throw out all their trash cans and make the town or people buy new ones, but limit it to 1 container up to a certain gallonage, and then charge for a sticker for extra container or bags. I believe that would reduce the trash that people are throwing out, because they would understand that they have limited, a limited way to do that without paying for it. I think there are ideas that are not quite as complex. I don't think we need to add staff to do this. I just think certainly putting greater restrictions on what people can just toss into their trash. We also have people that throw their, grass clippings or some brush that they're not supposed to, but they throw them in bags and in their cans. So, I do think there's ways to do this without adding more costs to it, and that we could discuss during the budgeting process. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Anita?
Before I go, did someone from the Recycling Commission want to respond to that, or?
No, I want you to ask questions and then they can respond. Okay.
Thanks. I guess I have a couple of comments and questions. One is, I really appreciate the report and all the time that you put into it. I thought it was a really thorough document, and I appreciated the Q&A section that you had with Mass DEP in there. It was really helpful for me to kind of see those answers. And as someone who has a public health background, I definitely appreciate the thought you put into about trying to figure out, getting to the source of the problem. So it's not just coming in terms of the reaction of fixing all the trash at the end, but really trying to figure out how do we limit trash in the first place. So I appreciate that perspective and the effort and that you've thought, put into that report. I guess I have a question related to the timeline piece where, so I guess the question here is whether or not we want to allow for 6 more months, or support this effort for 6 more months. But I know in one of the questions it was talking about how Mass DEP was like, if you actually want to roll out pay as you throw, it wouldn't be until fiscal year 23, right? You need at least 6 months or something like that for the contractor or the vendor to go through to set up that system. I don't know, I might be wrong, I might be misremembering, but I was trying to kind of plan out that timeline. So would that mean this is something for special town meeting to consider, or I don't know who I'm really asking. I'm just that's a question that I had. And then another question that I had, and this is kind of related to Scott's question about the makeup of the trash itself. So you listed out a few priorities around, limiting and lessening the source of the trash. So, and some of that was mattress recycling or fabrics and stuff like that. And I was just curious, how much of that is really, I guess it's related to Scott's question, how much of that is really the trash? How often are people throwing away mattresses? And so I feel like those priorities 1, 2, and 3, where it's around education and raising awareness and leveraging the structures and stuff that we already have in place around recycling and reusing materials, I wonder if that can also maybe merge into 1 or 2 priorities, so that there could be some other efforts kind of trying to speed the timeline along if we are able to move a little bit faster than 6 months, but I do recognize we're all volunteers, so.
Anita, this is Corey Grove. So we did recognize, a component of that, and I would, there's a section in the report that talks about priorities that can move concurrently with any decisions that come from the town and from the board. So, and Elizabeth Sawyer actually was the author of that portion. And so she did a nice job of defining the priorities as far as, accessibility from near term to more long-term efforts. And so we've outlined that in this document. And it is a topic of discussion within our commission meetings already. The other piece I'd like to try to help address, you asked about the timeline that the DEP's response. Their suggestion is essentially this, that if you are looking to limit to 1 barrel, there's a desire to have uniformity in that barrel, and in order to because the uniformity can help improve automation, some of those aspects. If you have to coordinate with a trash hauler on that uniformity, you need time and consideration to implement, the barrel purchasing and distribution and so on and so forth. That's a little bit different in comparison to what Jody's proposing, which is not a uniform barrel approach.
Anita, go ahead.
Yeah, just to follow up with that, I also wanted to highlight or bring to everyone's attention just that one of the questions that you all asked Mass DEP was what were some examples of failures of pay-as-you-throw programs, and Mass DEP, I'm just bringing it to the attention, I guess, of the public, was just that it was around the kind of leading up to the implementation of it, and I feel like I read it as not a lot of a community buy-in, right, and trying to do a lot more education kind of before this rolls out, if we do something, to really put a lot of effort into that piece too.
That was her recommendation, yes.
So I want to kind of follow up on some things that both Jody and Mark said. I recognize within the report that there are many sort of long-term planning that we would need to go through, including community buy-in and education. If we were to go to, just as an example, 1 barrel, uniformity and contracting with a hauler. But I guess my question is, and I think it's more for the board than it is for the commission, because Corey, I do agree with you that some of these decisions are the select board's decisions and not your commission's decisions. So I think the question for us as a board to consider, and to consider it within the budget process that we're going through, is, are there interim actions that we can take as a town that will help with the ongoing and increasing costs that we are seeing within our trash and recycling, that also may help with the budgetary problems and constraints that we are also facing, and priorities in terms of trying to fund things such as TSSTF, mental health, our first responders, and the other items that are on our priority list. So while Mark, you had suggested that we have a discussion about this, when trash and recycling come up within the budget review process, I'm wondering if really we should have that discussion before it actually comes to our joint FinCom select board meeting where that budget item is discussed, because I think that's a lengthier discussion than we usually have within the budget review session, and I think it would help to inform the budget discussion that night. So my thought is that we actually schedule that as a discussion item for the board at a meeting that's before. And Jody, I don't have the schedule for when trash and recycling is going to be discussed at our joint budget meetings, but obviously at a meeting before that comes up at the joint FinCom select board budget meeting, so that we can perhaps flesh out some ideas that might, that we might try and implement on an interim basis, or just, as I said, as short term, while we figure out this very long-term process and the very huge economic impact our ever increasing recycling and trash costs are going to have. So that would be my thought for the board as we move forward with this. And obviously, we would invite, all interested parties to our meeting when we talk about that, to get their input as well. And, included in that discussion, Jody, is what you're raising is, do we limit people to, 1 barrel, charge them for a sticker if they want to have a second or third barrel, and not, go to the whole uniformity program that we've read about in the report. So Jody, now you go ahead.
I'm sorry, I kept thinking you were done. So the trash is coming before the FinCom and the Select Board on April 1st. So are you suggesting the Select Board alone put it on an upcoming agenda? Okay, so
Yes.
that can either be your 3/9 meeting or your following meeting, which is probably like 3/23 or something. So you just let me know.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
And as I said, we would, obviously all interested parties could attend that meeting whenever we decide to put it on. But it just seems to me that it could be a broad-based discussion that I think we should have before the budget review session. So, Mark, and then we have some questions from the audience that I'll go to, just so the audience knows I haven't forgotten about them.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So I definitely agree with you. I have no problem with doing it. I think there's there's an education on the public on how much trash and recycling are consuming of our total expenditures over the last 12 years, right? I've been involved now with this stuff for 12 or 13 years, and that's when we were getting paid for recycling. And now when you add up the two of them, it's a very significant component. I can guarantee you that the general public has no idea how much that is. And so I think there's that session that you're recommending, I think has an opportunity for those who listen, or if people who will read about it at some point will understand. And I think that gives us an opportunity to do that, as well as talk about what the options are. So I support that.
Okay. All right, let me go to some questions from the audience. Eric Barber Mingo has asked, has increased trash production from folks being home more during the pandemic affected pay-as-you-throw analysis? Corey, I guess I would turn to you to see if you, and ask if you can answer that question.
I think maybe our own experiences inform this anecdotally. I don't know that we've got the raw data yet compiled for the 2020 year to officially answer that and provide information.
Okay. And then we have a question from Leela Obligetti, or Oblichetti, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Would it be possible to add on more town folk to help with the research? I think this is in response to Elizabeth Sawyer's comment. My guess is, but I'll let Corey answer, that they would welcome any help that they could get. But Corey, I'll let you answer the question.
We certainly would. And Leila, thank you for volunteering, if you are volunteering, in fact. Yes, our meetings are, of course, open. They're open meetings. Anybody is welcome to attend them, to listen in on them, and to volunteer their time and support to the town.
Okay. Carol Morse, you have your hand up. Do you have a question? Eric, is Carol unmuted?
She's self-muted. I don't know if she's, looks like
she just took her hand down, so I guess that means she doesn't have a question.
I'm good.
Okay. Are you good, Carol?
Yes, I'm hi.
No problem. Okay. I don't think I see any others. All right. I don't see any other questions. So again, on behalf of the board, oops, wait a minute, Christina. Christina Green has a question, or no, a comment. Christina Green is saying, I'm looking at the trash tonnage of 2020 compared to 2019. It has increased about 10%. So.
Thank you, Christina.
And then Emily Teller. Okay, you had your hand up, Emily, but then you put it down. So I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. So go ahead, Emily.
There we go. There are a lot of images up there. I would just like to put on my Westford Climate Action hat and realize that you all are also appointing people to the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee tonight, including my husband. And I would like to say that when WCA talked to the Arlington Sustainability staff person, he encouraged the town to have a position overseeing some of this, and he has applied for grants which completely cover his position's cost. And I think listening to the Recycling Commission talking about other towns have DPW staffing and that staffing's an issue in their time, I think it would be good in this consideration to think about the sustainability issues and the staffing issues for the town that might relieve some of the volunteers and focus more with a grant-funded position. Obviously, that's not going to be quick, but I just want to get that into the mix tonight.
Great, thank you. Okay, on the same, hang on a minute. Leela has another question on the same question about pandemic times. Is there data about the recycling going up since tons of stuff was mailed, Amazon, etc.? I guess, Corey, I'm not sure you can answer that if you've got the data to answer that, but I'll throw it to you.
Corey, you still there?
Did we lose Corey?
I think she's gone.
Okay. All right. We'll see if, Leela, we'll see if we can get the answer to that question for you after the meeting. Well, here we are. Christina Green then wrote, recycling has not increased considerably from 2019 to 2020. And Leela, you're welcome. Okay, so I think those are all the comments that we have. Again, thank you to the Recycling Commission for all of the work that they've done so far and the report that they've put together. I think the board is going to schedule this for further discussion about our options and the impact upon the budget. Jody, why don't we put this on for 3/9? Because if there is follow-up discussion or questions, we'll still have one more meeting to talk about it before the budget. So if you could put it on for 3/9, I would appreciate it. All right, thank you, everybody. Oh, wait a minute. Won't penalize question. All right, nope, I don't see any other questions. Okay. Moving along to our 7:35 p.m. item, which is old and new business. The first item on under this is discuss requirements and consider applying for the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant, otherwise known as the SAFER grant. Jody, is this you? Or is this Captain Dennehy?
I don't know if the chief and Captain Dennehy are there. I don't know which one wants to speak. And I think Dan also prepared some figures. Okay. But basically, while they're showing up, I think Selectman Hazelton had asked me about this a week or two ago. And we started taking a look at it. And I'm hearing water in the background. Hopefully that's not at the fire department. But the SAFER grant is something the town applied for before I got here, maybe 13, 14 years ago. And I think they hired 8 firefighters at the time. And the way the SAFER grants work is generally the first year it's 100% funded, and then it decreases over the next 2 to 3 years. Due to COVID, right now, the SAFER grant is offering to pay 100% of the cost of the firefighters for 3 years, which is significant. So we thought this was something that you all should look at, and because we have 3 firefighters that we have not been able to fit in, you told us to hire 8 new ones 3 years ago.
I'm
and
sorry.
I think we
Jody, can I just interrupt you for 1 minute? Can folks who are out in the audience, can you mute yourselves if you're not speaking, because we're getting a lot of feedback? Thanks.
So if the board remembers, in 18, you told us that we should hire 8 new firefighter paramedics or firefighters, some paramedics, and we've been able to hire 5. We have 3 left. So we thought this was something to take a look at. So I don't know if the chiefs want to speak, the chief or captain, or if you want to see the financials from Dan, or how you want to handle this.
I'm not sure either the chief or the captain.
I am out here. I think Mike's too.
Oh, hello. Okay, well, so why don't you guys go ahead, and then we'll hear from Dan for the financials.
Okay, I can start off, and then Mike can pick it up because he's been working on the AFG grant and also this one. But we did talk to, we have a coordinator that these grants are through FEMA. He recommends that we go for 4 instead of 3 because it would be 1 per shift. If we show that we're doing it, we have 1 and we're going for 3, they'll say, well, the town is, looking at means to do this. It wouldn't be favorable for us to do it. So 1 per shift is what we're looking at. It is 100% funding. There is, for 3 years, there is no retention on this. In past grants, you've had to keep them for so long after the grant expired. This is not, we'd hope that would not be the case, but we do have that option also. I don't know if Mike's out there. He was, if he wants to add anything to that.
It looks like you're still out there.
Nope, I'm right here. You guys hear me?
Yep.
All right, so the reason for the 4 guys, it was brought to my attention from the region director, was that if we did the 4 guys, we could maintain what we've been running now, maintain the current staffing. The NFPA in the federal government looks at ways to achieve staffing levels to help maximize or get towards the NFPA requirements. And that the way we run right now is consistent. It's not perfect, but it helps. So by going with 4 guys, we're able to continue running the way we are, but also being able to drop down 1. So, and the grant is for 3 years, again, 100%, which is unusual. I think it's, like the chief said, it's based solely on the COVID. Other departments our size went for 8, they got them. Others went for 4, they got them. And if you look at the grants that I received from those departments, they run pretty similar to the way we run now. So it's a competitive process like any other grant. Writing the grant.
Is there a deadline? Is there a deadline?
Yes.
Yes, there is, March 12th. So most of the information that is going to go on this grant, I already used in the one we just applied for the fire truck. So it's a lot less homework for Dan O'Donnell and everybody else that helped out with providing me information. It's just writing a different narrative portion to the rest of the grant process.
Okay, Jody?
So just to be clear, since you're not all part of the fire department, when COVID began, we fully staffed our shifts. So anytime there's someone out or someone's injured or whatever, we are filling that with overtime. So what Mike was saying is what adding 4 would do is allow us to continue to fully staff our fire department, but not be paying overtime to fill those extra shifts. So that's kind of in a nutshell. And then what I didn't know, which I just heard, is in the past, you had to commit to a period of maybe 3 years to continue funding these firefighters after the grant was done. And I guess that has been waived. Not that that's something I hope would happen, but if we apply for this grant and we get it, it sounds like we would have 3 years of fully funded for firefighters. And then at the end of the period could decide whether to fund those in the budget. And, you know, I think Dan's analysis showed 2022 to hire them fiscal year. I kind of doubt we could get 4 on in 1 year if it goes through. So in my guess, it would be 2026 when we would be looking to replace this within the operating budget. So maybe, Dan, if you could pull up the figures, we'll see, you know, what the funding would be if we are able to secure this grant.
All right, is the screen showing?
That's a beautiful picture.
It's a lovely picture of mountains.
Oh, more? Oh, okay. Let me go like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are better. Those are numbers. Those are more beautiful.
Yeah, these are my favorite. So to fund 4 firefighters, this is an estimate of actual costs that we would have in FY22. Like Jody said, this would be an extremely fast timetable to get the firefighters hired after the grant's approved. But say just by happenstance, we have it approved July 1st. It costs a little over $300,000 to actually hire those firefighters. And of course, that would be 100% financed by the SAFER grant. Of course, we have steps. We have estimates for increase in health insurance. And again, you see different amounts for health insurance. It's sort of spectrum that we put in there to more reflect how our, our labor force actually takes health insurance. And of course, they do reimburse for things like life insurance and Medicare. And we did find out today that they do reimburse for a portion of retirement as well. So actually, we'd probably be receiving about $3,000 to $4,000 per firefighter in that grant than what's shown here. So we will modify this to for the grant to actually reflect that if we proceed with it. Going forward to
Dan, hold on 1 sec. So just to clarify, because people may be wondering this at home, and he's got some of it broken down, but I believe it also covers their turnout gear, right? And the educational stipend.
It does not cover the turnout gear. It does cover education, any type of pay they have that's not overtime. So turnout gear would be additional cost for the town. And Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's between $2,500 to $3,000 per firefighter.
Right, and I'm checking the schedule. That's in our budget every year. It's a regular operating cost for replacing the gear. I'm going to check with Captain Gerard to see if we can work them in if we do get the grant to between this year and next year, or what we have for the gear budget to use them to see where the life expectancy is of the current gear.
All right, and so by the time at the earliest that the town would have to absorb these costs, we're probably looking around $335,000 in FY25. Other things could happen where, if the grant starts on January 1st, we could split that new cost over 2 years. So it's only, $170,000 each year. So it's more, we have a better chance of retaining the firefighters and, absorbing them within the operating budget.
I believe the timetable from what Mike said is probably summer to fall that we'd start seeing the awards come out. And I think they give us 180 days to fill those positions.
Yeah, that's correct. It's so the first awardments in the past have been issued in September, and those usually go to communities that are trying to retain firefighters. The hiring of firefighters usually takes place after that. So, and it is 180 days before you have to get somebody on the books and have them working and being employed by the town. So there is some time to play with the budget. If like Dan said, looking at January.
Okay. All right. Thank you, all of you. I know we have some questions. Scott?
I just want to say, thanks to Jody and Dan and the chief and the captain, because I had remembered we did this with the Rogers Station, unfortunately after a fatal fire. So I thought, well, at least ask the question, and in the space of about a week or two, we got a lot of information. So, thanks to all of you for, pulling this together. Now, the thought was, we're looking at needing 3 more firefighter paramedics, and by the time we get through 4 or 5 years, maybe 4 anyway, and we can't afford one this year, so how could we get that done? About, let's try safer. So what's nice here is we would basically be hiring 1 per year anyway, based on our track record. That's kind of where we're going to be in terms of having to pay for them come year 4, and even better if it covers the need for, or removes the need for some overtime. That may even help us in the short term. And you also got fresher guys or women on the department. So it seemed like a pretty straightforward decision to me to make this request.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Thank you all for doing this. I think this is a very smart and wise thing. The task force that Scott was a part of, clearly delineated the need that we had for these extras. We've all agreed that, and this is an avenue to get there. And while I certainly hope this doesn't happen, I'm not a big fan of grants when you're forced to then, when the grant goes away, to kind of, have to fund it somehow. And while that's never the intention to necessarily get rid of it, it does give us the financial flexibility that if for whatever reason we haven't recovered as a town to the point where these can all be afforded, it enters the picture of options of what would we do to reduce our costs. And so to me, this is a complete no-brainer, and I thank you all for bringing it forward.
Jody?
The other thing is, if for some reason the town found itself not able to fund these after the 3rd year, through attrition, it could be that we don't fill positions as people retire. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, firefighters would be laid off. There are certainly enough people retiring that we could take a look at that. So anyway, I think it's a good thing to do, and I appreciate, Scott, you telling us to go forward and study this. So if you support it, we will put in the grant.
I asked, I didn't tell.
All right. Jody, would you like a motion? Okay. Is there a motion to support filing a grant application under the SAFER program for the addition of 4 firefighters?
So moved.
Second? Okay. All those in favor, Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Aye. All right. Thank you all very much. Please let us know if there's anything that we need to do that, to help you along with the application.
Thank you again for all the support. We appreciate it.
All right. Next, we have a request from SCG Development Partners and Choice Inc. to provide a letter of support for the community preservation funding for the proposed town farm residences, a mixed income senior housing development at 35 Town Farm Road. I think in our packages, we, Jody so kindly drafted a letter on our behalf in support, for which we appreciate it, and thank you. Any discussion about this? Seeing none, is there a motion? I'm sorry, Scott.
No, as I was saying, we've already voted to approve the RFP and whole process. So I would make a motion that we issue this letter of support as drafted by Jody.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Scott?
Aye.
Anita?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay. Aye. All right. We now have a request actually to point, I know it says 5, but it's 6. I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, we have a request to appoint 6 new members to the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. The applicants are Michael Effiong, Erica Cole, Beth Perkins, Tom Teller, Susan Thomas, and Mark Ticknell. I believe that before we do this, Jody indicated earlier that Mike Berlinski wanted to speak with us. So Mike, if you're out there, and Eric can unmute you.
Hi, Mike Berlinski here.
Hello.
Okay, hi, yeah, thank you for letting me speak. Speaking as and
Is it me or
oh,
did we just
okay,
lose
I
him?
can I'm gonna share my screen.
There you are.
You see me, yep. Okay, yep,
Okay.
thank you for having me. So I just, bottom line, after last select board meeting, we were left in a position with larger member size for the committee, but not existing members to complete a quorum. So that was unfortunate, and I apologize, I didn't catch that during the select board meeting. I did go to implement the transition and work towards filling out and working with this new committee immediately after the last select board meeting, but so I hit a roadblock there. So I see 2 options. One, and my preference would be to temporarily reduce the committee size so we can have a quorum, have a meeting, review all the applicants' interest forms that have come in, and then make recommendations to select board. The other alternative is to have select board approve new members tonight, and then at our next meeting, and I plan to have one next week, we'll have enough members to have a quorum. So again, the former would be my preference, and so I just wanted to show up here to mention that.
Thank you. Mark?
Yeah, so we had voted on 9, correct?
That would be right.
Okay, and this is, we've actually got 6 new people, so that would be 10 instead of 9, right?
Correct. Even I can do that math.
Just making sure, the night's getting late, so making sure that, I'm still doing math okay. So I don't know why we wouldn't just do, we've got 6 people who are interested. It's not going from 5 to 15, it's going from 5 to 6. Just allow all 6 to be members. It'll be 10. You don't have to have 2 separate meetings. They all go in tonight, and you can have your meeting next week, and as long as you have 5, you're good. 6. Good at adding, not subtracting.
Hang on 1 minute, Mike. I agree with you, Mark. I don't see why we shouldn't appoint the 6 people who have volunteered and add them to the committee. I know that I have heard, and Ms. Jody's told us, there's a grant application out there that I think we want to apply for, and I would hope, and I think the committee should get going on that as soon as possible. I think the deadline is early March, 2nd week in March, Jody. I forget, but I know it's March. So it just seems to me that, let's get, we've been talking about this since special town meeting. Let's get this up and rolling. But go ahead, Mike. Oh, actually, let me hear, let me hear from Mike, and then Scott, I'll go back to you, okay?
Sure, thank you. A couple things on the numbers. So we currently have 4 members. I understand from 2 of them that they may resign in the near term after the next meeting. So there may be some additional spots opening. Also, my preference would be to leave the number at 9, as that seems more manageable, and certainly want to allow people to get involved, and certainly will encourage that, but also just not want to have too large of a committee that it becomes more of a challenge. So that also would be my preference. And then for the grant, understand the MVP, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, there's an action grant available, and I have been working with Town Manager's Office to understand and go after that. And I do think we still can go after that, even with a week or two delay in full appointments to the committee, but certainly agree that on that issue and other tasks, we want to get up and running as soon as possible.
Scott?
Well, just two thoughts. One was, you know, when it formed the committee at 9, it was with the understanding that if we had interest and expertise beyond 9, we would let that happen. And so 10 is not out of bounds what we had originally envisioned. And secondly, if we look at the 6 individuals, you know, would we say no to any of them anyway? So why would we wait 2 more weeks to say yes if we think we say yes tonight? You know, to me, it's just let's be efficient and do this once.
Okay.
So do you want a motion?
I do, but Hank, I'm just making sure that I'm looking to see if there are any questions out there, and I don't see any. So yes, a motion would be good.
Okay, excellent. I'll make a motion to appoint Michael F. Young, Erica Cole, Beth Perkins, Thomas Teller, Susan Thomas, and Mark Ticknell to the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee, with terms to be determined, recommended by Jody.
Second.
I'm sorry, Town
Okay.
Manager's Office with,
Is there a second?
oh,
Second.
Jody,
May
were
I
you going to say something?
I just wanted to clarify that we had talked to the 5 about what terms they liked, and then we got a 6, so that's why they're lined out. But with Mike Berlinski and the members, the Town Manager's Office have the authority to determine the terms. That would be wonderful. Thank you. So we don't have to come back to you. Thank you.
Yes. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Mike?
Thank you for that. I always appreciate your guidance. And just wanted to say our next meeting will be Monday, March 1st, 7:30. And if you're interested, I would still encourage folks to submit forms and contact me, and we'll get you involved. Thank you.
Okay, and I guess for the people who have just been appointed, Jody, they need to go to, you need to make an appointment to go to Town Hall to get sworn in before March 1st so that you can be fully voted members at the March 1st meeting. So please arrange to do that. All right, thank you to the 6 people who volunteered. Thank you, Mike, and good luck. All right. We have done the consent agenda. So any board reports or updates? I don't see any. So we have minutes for approval. We have executive session minutes for approval and release from July 9th, 2019, August 27th, 2019, October 15th, 2019, November 12th, 2019, November 26th, 2019. Is there, Jody?
Just for clarification, these have already been approved. You're just releasing them.
Okay, so they're just for release. Is there a motion to release these minutes?
So moved.
No, let's hang on to them.
You can use them for wallpaper. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Mark?
Yes.
Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, town manager's report.
Yes, so
That's you, Jody.
that is me, for now at least. So if you remember at our last meeting, You had a question about correspondence on one of the results at the Westford landfill well, and I think Steve Cronin is in the background, and we gave you some documentation, but if Steve could maybe come on and speak to you about that.
Yes, that would be helpful. Since it was my question.
Hi,
Steve.
How are
Good.
you? So just as some background, we have had seasonal variations in 1,4-dioxane levels at the landfill for a number of years now. Typically in monitoring well number 5, which is the northwesternmost monitoring well for the landfill. 1,4-dioxane is a byproduct in many different industrial and residential products, such as paint, adhesives, pesticides, and consumer products like household cleaners, deodorants, cosmetics, things to that effect. So, as I said, we've had seasonal variations. Anytime we do, we'll typically follow up with samples at our Forge 1 and Forge 2 wells, which are adjacent to the landfill. Historically, we haven't seen any real elevated levels. We did have levels of roughly 0.35 parts per billion back in 2014 or 15, but really nothing elevated since then. So this particular result of 0.24 is relatively abnormal. Just for reference, the EPA and DEP have not established a maximum contaminant level for 1,4-dioxane. Right now, they have nothing more than just a guideline, which is simply a recommendation. However, DEP has been treating that as an MCL, and likely will probably establish that as their standard moving forward. There are only a handful of... Sure.
See, for the public, MCL, I mean, just...
Yes, sure. Sorry, that's maximum contaminant.
I know you know what it is, but...
Yeah. So that's a maximum contaminant level, which would be basically the regulatory limit they set for that particular contaminant. So, anyway, like I said, it's a guideline right now. It's 0.3 parts per billion. So this particular sample of 0.24 is relatively close to that. That being said, this well is blended with 4 other wells before it goes to the treatment plant and out to the distribution system. So any level that we are detecting is significantly diluted or reduced prior to treatment anyway. We have sampled the entry points to the distribution system and haven't seen anything close to this level. So at this point in time, we're not concerned. We are following up with some repeat samples, which we conducted last week. We'll likely have those results the end of this week, hopefully. So that'll give us an idea if this is just an anomaly or something that we need to keep an eye on. Our course of action moving forward is going to be to probably increase our sampling frequency. Obviously, we're going to keep an eye on the results that we see at the landfill. But all in all, we don't have an immediate concern of any contamination at the well. We do know from some prior geologic studies that we've done for both our drinking water plant as well as the Westford Academy treatment plant. The typical groundwater flows flow north from the landfill, so we don't anticipate that that's going to flow in the direction of the wells anyway. But out of an abundance of caution, we're going to increase our sampling frequency just so we can make sure that we don't have any cause for concern.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it. Mark Warren, I see that you have joined us. I don't know if you have anything to add to Steve or not.
Steve said it all.
Okay.
I really don't have much to add. It's something that's on our radar. We're going to keep an eye on it, but yeah, he said it.
Okay. Good enough. Anyway, thank you both. I appreciate you responding to my concern and for being here tonight. So thank you both.
Sure.
Okay. Jody, next.
Moving right along, if you remember, you approved Neshoba Tech being given some of our CARES funds, and their expenses were denied, some of them by FEMA, so they were asking us to increase the amount to $26,889, which would be reduced if anything gets changed with FEMA.
Any questions? Is there a motion to
So moved.
approve? Is there a second? All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Okay.
Then
Next.
if you remember, we had applied for the micro enterprise grants for small businesses and childcare expenses for low and moderate income folks. We did apply for a subsequent grant to get additional funding for that program. And I just want to remind the public that this is out there for childcare expenses, and it is on our website, or you may call our office or email us if you have any questions. We've only had 3 applicants so far, so we have more money to help people with. Then I did receive notification from our International Association of Firefighters to start bargaining their upcoming contract, which expires in June, and I'm seeing if a select board member would like to participate. I did hear from one of you, Andrea.
Yeah, I'm more than willing to participate.
So if that's okay with everybody, Andrea, you're it. Okay, and then I have 2 contracts to be approved. Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, which is NIMCOG, to cover the provision of professional staff support under the DLTA assistance program as requested by the Director of Land Use Management, and National Association of County and City Health Officials for a grant agreement to build the capacity of local Medical Reserve Corps, or MRC, units as requested by the Health Director.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anita?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
Aye.
And then before I end, I just want to tell you all and the public that today we did send a letter to the state asking to open a regional vaccine clinic now, because we were told that we could not have a local one anymore. So that's our attempt to see if we can get something done regionally, and we will keep you posted on that.
Great. Thank you for doing that, and for coordinating with the other communities around us. Hopefully the state will permit us to do that. All right. With that, is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence?
Actually,
Go ahead. Yeah.
so I just wanted to call out one item first. So there's a letter from the Board of Health to our town health staff I wanted to call out, because I think it's a really good letter that, this time of COVID, we've had the health department, our nurses doing everything, tracking the state data, tracking contacts, tracing contacts, trying to keep up with the ever-changing state guidance, fighting to get these vaccination centers, all the while still doing their real jobs or their day jobs of inspections and grant writing and so forth. So, thanks to Jeff and his staff, and thanks to the Board of Health. Actually, they take the direction from you. So, thanks to that whole group of volunteers and staff for a really a tough year, but one we appreciate you working on.
Well said. With that, and is there a motion to waive reading of correspondence now?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
And we'll do this by hand. All those in favor?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Great. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Westford. Everybody stay safe and good night.
Night.
Right.